If you're facing bailiffs and have mental health problems, don't worry. There's appropriate support and I'll talk you through it. Did you know that debt and mental health are closely linked? According to the Royal College of Psychiatrists, 50% of people in debt suffer from some form of mental health problem, and 25% of people with mental health problems have debt, so you're not alone. Now let's talk about enforcement agents or bailiffs. If you've been taken to court about your debt, the court may have given you creditor the legal permission to enforce a debt, and that may include the use of bailiffs. They'll send you a notice of enforcement and ask you to either make a full payment or agree to a controlled goods agreement. If you don't do either of these, I'll come to your house and seize your goods within 7 clear days. Now, there are some fees involved in this process and they can add up quickly. That's why it's recommended to try and find a solution with your creditors before it gets to that stage, if possible. But what about if you're a vulnerable person? Bailiffs must follow different guidelines if they're recovering money from a vulnerable person, and it changes the fees and actions it can take. You may be considered a vulnerable person if you're pregnant, a single parent, seriously ill, disabled, elderly, young, not fluent in English, recently injured, recently unemployed, or mourning a loved one. And of course, if you have mental health problems. If you do have mental health problems, you should inform the enforcement agent company immediately. If they don't accept your evidence, you can get help from the Citizens Advice Bureau. When you're considered a vulnerable person, the bailiff must treat you differently. They can't visit you alone. They have to give you more time to find solutions, and by law, they must also make sure that you receive debt advice before taking any action. Plus, they can't charge you with some fees, which is a relief. Now, what about getting your debt written off due to mental health? There aren't any laws that say a company must write off your debt if you have a long-term mental health problem, but in limited cases, they may choose to write off smaller debts owned by vulnerable people. However, it's still a good idea to communicate your situation with the companies you owe. By explaining your circumstances, they may offer a more affordable and appropriate repayment agreement. Remember, don't suffer in silence and know that support's available. I'll leave 2 links in the description for you that might help. One is a website called MoneyHelper, which has free advice, and the other one is for the Breathing Space scheme. Breathing Space is a government scheme, and if you're eligible, you'll get 60 days of respite and advice about your debt.